What happened in ancient Egypt? Why today do we witness ancient images containing helicopters, planes, and submarines? We have researched dozens of scientific articles and books to discover the possible connection between aliens and ancient Egypt. It turns out that a number of researchers have found amazing things proving alien contact. The famous British Egyptologist Walter Brian Emery dedicated his career to excavations in the Nile Valley, and between 1935 and 1939, he conducted numerous surveys and excavations in the cemeteries of Saqqara. It was the final resting place of many high-status figures of the early dynastic period and is one of the oldest and largest necropolises in ancient Egypt in 1936. While Emery was excavating the tomb of Prince Sabu, a ruler of the First Dynasty and son of the famous pharaoh Ajib, the explorer made one of the most valuable discoveries. It is a strange object with a circular shape and approximate dimensions of 24 inches in diameter and 4 inches in height. Excavations at Saqqara have uncovered many important and valuable objects, but none as strange as the Sabu disc. Unfortunately, very little is known about Prince Sabu. He did not succeed his father on the throne, but he did receive an honorary burial in Saqqara. Due to the lack of records, we may never know Sabu's fate, his exact role in the court, or the political events of the time. During the excavation of Mastaba, the disc was found broken into numerous pieces. After being painstakingly reassembled, the object reveals its disc shape resembling a shallow bowl. It has a central hole about 3.1 inches in diameter, which is fitted with a socket whose height corresponds approximately to the depth of the bowl. From the slightly raised outer rim, 3 wings or lobes fold inwards towards the central aperture, the outer rim remaining in the form of narrow arches that connect the unfolded parts to one another. Viewed from above, the disc resembles a steering wheel with 3 very wide spokes. The artifact is made of slate, which is a porous, brittle rock that is nearly impossible to carve into such delicate details without disintegrating. But how was the disc carved despite this? In asking this question, we must also consider the age of the disc. Prince Sabu's tomb has been dated to around 3000 BC. It is believed that the tools used back then were made of stone and copper, making craftsmanship virtually impossible. Almost immediately after its discovery, the artifact was dismissed as a vase or censer and accepted as a trivial, decorative, or ceremonial object. But many disagree. Those familiar with mechanics and engineering insist that this disc may well have been part of a larger mechanism. One resourceful historian armed with a 3D printer tried to solve the mystery. He created an exact replica of Sabu's disc in an attempt to prove his theory that the disc was an ancient impeller, part of a centrifugal pump. When placed in a housing and driven at high speed by the small shaft at its center, the disc was extremely effective in displacing water. Furthermore, when driven without a casing to guide it, the disc creates a powerful wind. An interesting conclusion from the experiment is that the folded lobes and slightly concave shape of the disc are there for a purpose. Due to the intricate details, it was able to displace water with ease and appears to be an important component of an ancient water pump mechanism. An indirect fact that supports this theory is that ancient Egypt depended on irrigation. Later in their history, the Egyptians perfected water management through irrigation basins, a process that allowed them to control the rise and fall of the river. But slate did not seem a strong enough material for a pumping mechanism. This takes us in another direction and to the question of whether the artisans of First Dynasty Egypt were trying to recreate an older object using the tools and materials available to them, an object they may not have fully understood. Many hypotheses suggest that the Sabu disc was simply a replica of an original object made of metal. It has even been suggested that the object is a copy of an internal component from an alien ship's hyperdrive or a stone model of a flying saucer. Others liken the disc to the advanced light-frame flywheels developed in the 1970s by Lockheed rocket engineers, and indeed, many similarities are noted. After all, given the experiments with the replica disc, with proper housing, water outlet, and means of propulsion, it could easily displace large amounts of water quickly and efficiently. Adding in the need for irrigation in ancient Egypt, the pieces of the puzzle seem to fall into place. Perhaps it is time to look at the early Egyptians from a different perspective. And let's ask ourselves, could the Egyptian pharaohs have had contact with alien civilizations? A new genetic study says the lineage of Egyptian pharaohs was deliberately modified by a technologically advanced civilization. Stuart Fleischman, assistant professor of comparative genomics at the University in Cairo, and his team recently released their results from a 7-year study that examined the genomes of 9 ancient Egyptian pharaohs. If their findings are definitively proven, they could change our understanding of world history. Fleischman and his team analyzed ancient DNA. 8 of the 9 samples show interesting but typical results. The 9th sample, however, belongs to Akhenaten, the enigmatic 14th century BC pharaoh and father of Tutankhamun. A small fragment of desiccated brain tissue was the source of the DNA sample, and the test was repeated using bone tissue, but the results remained the same. A gene called CXPAC5 is responsible for the growth of the cortex. The abnormality in Akhenaten's genome suggests that he had a larger skull due to the need for a larger shell for his brain. What mutation would cause this brain growth? Despite advances in genetics, there is still no answer to this question. Could this ancient evidence point to genetic manipulation? Could it be the work of advanced extraterrestrial beings, and the mythology of ancient Egypt proved to be more than just allegory? Prof. Fleischman explains,
telomerase is expended in 2 cases: very rapid aging and strong mutations. Genetic and archaeological evidence suggests that Amenhotep IV Akhenaten lived for about 45 years, which is not enough to use up all the telomerase. This means that there is another explanation for its consumption, such as genetic manipulation. The hypothesis is supported by the fact that electron microscope analysis revealed signs of nucleotide cicatrix, which is a sign of DNA healing after exposure to mutagens.
could this mean that Akhenaten has been genetically modified? Other evidence also supports the hypothesis. Microscopic images of bone tissue from Akhenaten's skull and another mummy of the same age show significant differences. Akhenaten's bone tissue is much denser, which may be an indicator of increased brain development. Fleischman stated to the press, "We sent the papers out for peer review and did numerous tests to be sure of their accuracy. If the research is true, it will change our understanding of history. If aliens were involved in the lives of the pharaohs thousands of years ago, perhaps they will return. Or maybe they never left. And are there individuals, direct descendants of the pharaonic line of ancient Egypt, who still carry the alien genes of their ancestors? What do you think? But let's see, what secrets are hidden in the hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt? In the ancient city of Abydos, in the famous temple of Seti I, strange hieroglyphs were found on the ceiling. They appear to depict modern or extraterrestrial vehicles, and some argue that the carvings at Abydos are strong evidence of a visit to Egypt by ancient astronauts more than 3,000 years ago. The Temple of Seti I is best known for its long gallery that includes the list of the kings of Abydos, but there also lies a great mystery attracting eyes from around the world. Also called helicopter hieroglyphs, the carvings from Abydos have been interpreted in pseudoscientific circles as depictions of modern 20th century technology or extraterrestrial ones. They have been likened to what appears to be a helicopter, or perhaps a submarine, 2 airplanes, or even a UFO, which apparently did not exist at the time the hieroglyphs were carved. While some claim that the images circulating on the internet are fakes, they are in fact real. But Egyptologists are trying to offer a more rational explanation for them. In ancient Egypt, it was common for hieroglyphs to be carved and redressed over the years. This process of inscribing the same surface more than once is called palimpsest, and it was common practice when a new pharaoh established a dynasty to inscribe on the hieroglyphs of his predecessors. It is well known that such a process occurred in the temple of Seti I at Abydos during the reign of his son Ramses II. Hence, wherever Seti I is written, Ramses II is carved above it, or vice versa. This superimposition of hieroglyphs, along with the erosion that occurs over time, creates the visual effect of modern technology where none actually exists. However, there is still some disagreement over the palimpsest theory. Still, the images are startlingly realistic, to say the least. If they are indeed remnants of previously carved hieroglyphics, the symbols should appear random and unique. Several sources, however, refer to the Arabic newspaper Al-Sharq al-Awsat, which has published photographs from the Temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak, showing very similar carvings to those found at Abydos. Following this line of reasoning, if the Karnak carvings are real, the palimpsest theory obviously falls apart. How then can Egyptian carvings in a temple, dating back more than 3,000 years, indicate technology created in the 20th century? Were they visited by people from the future, or perhaps aliens? Coming out of ancient Egypt, conspiracy theories say that even today, extraterrestrial beings are here, but they are tied up in a secret deal with governments that cover it up in every way. However, all this turns out not to be idle talk, because we have found accounts from government agents of third species encounters, and more recently, even the government has released a video of an unidentified flying object. We've compiled all of the information into the video that you're seeing on your screen right now. Click the image now, and we'll be back together in a second.